Okay, well, we will jump straight into it then. Thank you, Scott and Andrew, for being here today. Welcome everybody for our Resilient Youth Australia and Social Enterprise Schools Teacher Professional Development. Today joining us, we've got Scott Jennings, who is the Partnerships Manager at Resilient Youth Australia. And Scott's also been a leading teacher with the Victorian Department of Education and worked extensively throughout his career with disengaged, particularly youth. And recently running the Leaps and Bounds program with the Victorian Department of Education. And we also have Dr. Andrew Wicking, who is the founding director of Resilient Youth Australia. And he is also an adjunct research associate of Uni South Australia. So welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. And I'm largely going to be sort of in the background watching and learning. So I'll now pass it over to you to talk about the survey, and I might jump in and sort of link it back to our program every now and again.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Thanks so much. So just by way of revision, I'm Andrew and that's Scott. Good to meet you all. We do have a slideshow. We might jump in there as a great way to introduce ourselves firstly, quickly, and then we'll get into the survey platform and portal. That's the subject of today's recording.
All right, if I'm sharing things right, we should be seeing this.
There we go.
We play from the start. Here we go. So it's a bit of a welcome to the social enterprise schools and Resilient Youth, and hopefully by the end of the session, you've got an idea about who we are, what the survey looks like, and a brief how to jump into your reporting portal and pull out some really useful information about your young people.
So that's us.
Might even be wearing the same shirt.
It's possible.
There's always a chance. Yep.
Yeah. That's the only time I've worn a suit in probably 2 years. So that's us. There are our contact details. Please feel free to contact us if and when you need to. So just by way of introduction, quickly, we've been around since 2013, surveying in schools. We've surveyed now more than 1,500 schools in every state and territory across the country. It would be closer to 500,000 young Australians now that we've worked with, that we've administered the resilience survey to specifically. We've also done some work more recently in New Zealand and the UK and even Bhutan a few years ago. So the survey's gone further afield. Also, actually, China, we've done some surveying there. We have a lot of partners at local level and an agency level, including social enterprise schools, who we're very proud to be involved with. We've also done work with the Jane, and continue to do work with the Jane Goodall Institute, for example. We work and have worked with Scouts Australia, and we do work with the Resilience Project, the POSED mob down at Geelong. And as you can see, there are a number of universities, including the University of Adelaide, and we also have a strong relationship with the University of South Australia as well, where I'm an adjunct. All of this work is our surveying work. So our research collaborators are both the University of South Australia, who have co-developed the Resilience Survey with us, and also the University of Adelaide, who have now established a lab called the Wellbeing and Learning and Development Laboratory, one of which main sort of pillars of its activity will be to analyse and communicate the data collected through the Resilience Survey tool. We're not in any way based in South Australia or Adelaide. We're based here in Melbourne, but we happen to have these two strong research collaborations in South Australia. Our surveys are all done for students online in class time. They all incorporate international gold standard instruments of mental health and wellbeing, which we'll come to shortly when we look at the portal and your data specifically. These have been co-developed, as I say, with the University of South Australia. And in terms of the student survey, we have both primary and secondary school versions. That is to say, they are largely the same set of questions, It's just one or two, if you like, tweaked to be appropriate for the age level. We also have a staff resilience survey and a parent resilience survey and a number of others.
So depending on what year level the students select, they'll get to see either the primary or secondary survey. We did a lot of research about what sort of resilience means to us and how it fits together. And we came up with this model of resilience being connected, protected, and respected being the main domains, the CPR, if you like, where resilience is being connected. And in these subdomains over here, it's through that understanding of yourself, positive relationships, and developing the social skills. Whereas the protected domain looks at personal safety, health, and learning, education, and being respected for having a positive identity, positive values, and that ability to make a positive contribution.
And all of the items in the survey map to one or other of these domains, and all of these CPR domains and items are represented in the reporting, which we will come to shortly.
I wanted to briefly tell you about, Tom in the introduction mentioned that I worked at a behavioural unit, disengaged students down here in Bayswater. And a young bloke that we worked with, young Phil, who things weren't working for him at school, came to the unit for a while, ended up returning to school, finishing his VCE, getting into the army, serving in Afghanistan, Timor. I think he was in the army for about a dozen years, really enjoyed it. He's now out of the army, he's married, he's started a family. He's also started up a Hearts and Mind Wellness Centre. But talking to Phil recently, he was able to reflect that when the CPR wasn't working in his life, if he didn't feel connected, protected, or respected, the wheels started falling off. That was happening at school, gradually at school. When he was working at the unit with me, he was able to regain some learning and some self-confidence and some abilities, which stood him in good stead to get back to school. The army worked really well for him, but since leaving the army, a lot of that respected and protected sphere fell away. So it's always been that battle of building up, making sure that if he's not traveling well, mental health wise, it's generally because either he's not feeling connected, protected, or respected. And that's a trigger for him to start looking at what he can be doing in his life and how he can use that wellness centre to help serve other people within that model of resilience and well-being.
And in the course of surveying as many students as we have, our data set is so large that it's essentially generates its own norms. In other words, because the data set's so large, it is a picture of what is going on in the resilience and wellbeing of young people in Australia. This data here was taken from between 2013 and 2018, but the general trend still applies. And it's this itself was what's that, 250,000 young people. We probably surveyed that number, more or less that number again. But just very quickly, to give you a sense of context and how what resilience is for young people. We've found in our data consistently that bullying peaks for young people in around grade 4. It's also the time of their lives when friendship and peer-to-peer connection is key. We know in grades 5 and 6, this is when, of course, students are at the top of the school. It's when resilience peaks for young people. In a sense, resilience for young people of a certain age is never higher than when they're in grade 6 at school. This is when they have those leadership opportunities, when they're most empowered, And this is also the opportunity there is to work with young people at that age through school leadership, school pride kind of activities. That transition, of course, from grade 6 into 7 and 8 into the big world of high school is where we know there's a great deal of transition anxiety. It's where resilience starts to drop off quite sharply. But we know then and therefore that adult support from parents, from teachers, and from respected adults in the lives of young people is key and is most important. This is part of the idea where if we build as much resilience and positivity as we can into kids in those primary school years, knowing that this inevitable developmental dropping away will happen, then we can stand them in good stead. It's in the middle years, and which is more the focus of the social enterprise schools work that we're all doing together. This is where educational engagement for young people can either go one way or the other. This is where we can lose them, but it's also the opportunity here is to engage students in particularly in more entrepreneurial or extracurricular activity. This is the thing that will really fire them up, and this is where we can really build some fantastic resilience in our young people. And by the time we get to years 11 and 12, this is when we know that healthy mind and a healthy body, that equilibrium and equanimity is most important. So that's a general picture, overall picture for males and females of resilience through the years, through the school journey, and such as it was then in 2018, it is now, where, of course, anxiety might be even more acute or sharp. We're finding as young people recover or go back to school post-COVID.
Andrew, can I just make an observation? I wonder what your thoughts are on this as well.
Sure.
Where you see, like as you said, where that middle years and the drop off is where they're sort of at their lowest. Is there also that kind of, I suppose, need for some of the strategies and skills to be taught where they're at that high point in grade 5 and 6, prepping them for what's about to come?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That is, we want to, as much as we can prep them, as much as we can build in those developmental assets, if you like, and those skills earlier, the better, so that they, knowing that just by virtue of being humans in Australia in 2022 and beyond, that their resilience will be impacted and it will start to drop away. The more skills and the more we can invest in them earlier, the more buoyant they will be as they come to those middle years. So hopefully they're entering 9 and 10 with some skills or some sense of resilience. Resilience being the idea that they might have they've done or achieved, or they've had the skills that they know that they can draw on when they need them. So yes, that's exactly the point where we hope we can invest a little more so that our young people can benefit even a few years down the track.
All right, jumping into the survey itself, into the nitty-gritty of it. Your school will be given a 6-digit access code. Every school's given a different one, yet all of the students in your school use the same code. It means that the data is non-identifiable and anonymous. So we report on cohorts, not on individual students. The survey is generally done in class time, supervised by an adult, and the 6-digit code gets put in, and around about 20 minutes, a little bit longer for primary kids, they get to do an online survey of these type of questions. You know, at least one teacher encourages me, an adult in my life I can talk about. The Attitudes to School survey does focus on school itself. Our survey looks at the young person more holistically, where they fit in at home and in the community and how they're travelling. we're basically asking the students, how are you going? At the end of the survey, there's a written response about how the young people can, what do they recommend can be done to support the wellbeing of others. Once you've surveyed, you'll have access to your own school's portal, reporting portal. So what I might do here is stopping sharing for a sec and pull up a live portal that we can look at together. So hopefully you can all see that. So again, you'll have your own username and password, and this is an ongoing portal. So year on year, you can add the data to it. You're then able to look at data longitudinally as well as that snapshot in time. So you log into your portal. This is a bit of an example one, so it's got a range of different surveys in there. When the survey closes, you're then able to click on reports, or at any stage, even with the survey open, you can click on the data tab in the top left-hand corner, select the student resilience survey. And we've got two columns here. One's PDF reports and the other's interactive. There's different types of reports that you can look at. The mental health report that has those gold standard tools in one report, a snapshot report that we'll focus on, a positive learner's mindset, which is an interesting one for educators, as well as the executive summary. So if you're surveying the whole school, you've got that line graph and you can look at it longitudinally and time lag to get some of that year on year data. Let's jump in and have a look at the snapshot report. This is probably the best starting point, the best go-to report. Now in your portal, you will have the ability to click on and off different years. Up here, we've got our comparison data. So at the moment, it's Australia, December 2021. We upgrade that a couple of times a year. And you can click on the year level. So let's say that you surveyed years 7, 8, and 9 in your school, males and females. To check the numbers, you can click on the box up in the corner here, and that will show you the numbers of responses for each of those year levels. Now, you do need to remember that because it's non-identifiable and anonymous, you need a cohort of 9 or greater in order to generate a report. So if, for example, you don't have those numbers in the year levels that you've got, you're able to click and drag the year levels together to make bigger cohorts, or even drag the males and females, or others and prefer not to say, together to create bigger cohorts. Okay, so this one here, we've got year 7, 8, and 9, males and females separated, 2021 data. You click on that, generates a report, and you can then download it, print it, save it, share it. It's your data and you can do what you like with these reports. As a leadership team, you can choose what you share with your staff, what you share with your parents. We'd encourage you to be sharing it back with the kids as well. So your report, it's always worth checking that you've got the right years, you've got the right numbers in your cohorts, and we've got a bit of a description about our CPR of resilience: connected, protected, and respected. It looks at those domains and subdomains. Okay, the meat of the report, this is our year 7s. We've got our females and males, so a female column, a male column. And for each of the questions, we've got a color-coded response. So if you get 15% or below the Australian norms, it'll come out as red. And if it's 15% or above the norms, 15% or more above the norms, it comes out as dark green. So by just looking at it, you're able to see where the strengths are in a school and where there's some challenges that might pop out. So this is the year sevens we're looking at currently.
So by the norms, just to clarify too, what we mean by that is that because we collect so much data in any given year, we're able to generate and create norms so that where we collect thousands of survey responses from both males and females in any given year level, then we use that aggregated data to generate the norms. So we're comparing your data against this Australian norm data set, which by gender represents many thousands of students in any given year. That's what your item for your students is being compared to.
So it's comparing apples with apples. So the norms there is year 7 females that it's comparing against. This is year 7 males it's comparing against.
Exactly.
Can I just ask, Scott, just a question coming through? Do those Australian norms change greatly over time, or are they generally speaking kind of the benchmark sort of numbers?
Look, they do change a bit over time. You know, we're expecting a bit of an increase in things like anxiety as kids are returning back to school from COVID experiences. So they do change over time, but as I said, it also gets updated, the norms against time too. So we try to keep it as fresh as we can. So you're comparing, you know, pretty much today's responses with the norms for today as well. But generally over time, those norms don't vary a huge amount because we've got such a big data set. So this is still year 7. This is the protected. First page was connected. This is the protected questions. And then the third page is the respected questions. So we've got, again, colour-coded males, females. The secondary questions has the risky behaviours component to it. The primary, we don't ask those risky behaviours questions. And then we go into year 8, the same thing. Females, males, connected, protected, respected. We did year 9s in this report, and you can see that the year 9s are travelling fairly well in the connected space, and the boys particularly. There's a lot of green there, which is always a good thing.
So we literally hope that you can use this report very visually, so you can see quite quickly where the red, for example, or the orange is popping up, and it might be for females throughout the years, or it might be in any given year level, or it could be in a specific domain. So it's also though showing you where the real strengths are, where that green is, that's where the real strength is for our young people. So we always encourage you to look for the strengths too, because of course we want to recognise those, acknowledge those and celebrate those amongst yourselves and amongst the school community. That's really important. And also, of course, we'll be looking for the challenges where you've got reds or oranges. Remembering too that there might be a couple of examples here, Scott, where the number, you have to also take into consideration the actual number or percentage that you're looking at, because it might be, so for example.
Yeah, I was looking at this one here, given useful jobs at school, and you look at that and you go, gee, the boys is down from the norm. The girls is spot on the norm at 39%. It doesn't mean that that's necessarily what you're aiming for, is to get, you know, that the norms are a good thing. That's actually saying that 61% of girls in year 9 are not given useful jobs to do at school. So, you know, that's sort of something to keep in mind. Even though it comes up green, it doesn't mean that, well, our work's done here. It's just comparing it to the Australian norms.
It also, of course, as Scott says, it matters very much what you're focusing on or what you want to target as a school. That may be of incredible interest to you, that item and that result, or not at all. You might be looking at something else entirely. So, of course. So
now at the end of this report, it's the same data, the same colour coding, but we've got it. This is all the females grouped together. So you can see the year 7s, 8s and 9s. So this is a good way of seeing where the strengths are across the school and also where those challenges might be, or whether they're just sitting in one particular year level. So that goes through the 3 things for females and the males down here. So you've got 7s, 8s and 9s of the males. So you can see teacher at school who cares from a male's point of view. It's right across the board there from year 7, 8 and 9. It's not a glitch in a particular year. So it's another useful way of looking at that data. So that's our snapshot report. And as I said, it's a good one to share with staff. With the color coding, it means that challenges jump out fairly quickly, and you're able to use that as a go-to report.
Scott, is it worth looking perhaps quickly at the interactive snapshot report?
Yeah. So if we jump over here to the interactive side, we've got our mental health. You can divide the mental health report into those different gold standards. And we just looked at the snapshot on the report side, and let's look at it on the interactive side. So here it is, our 7s. We've got it all here as live data. So again, we can look at that. We can combine it with the year 8s. We can combine it with the year 9s. We can just look at the females. We can put the others and prefer not to says on as well as the males, provided you've got enough numbers
data in
there.
each of those cohorts.
Yeah. So you can do this in real time. If you wanted to look at, particularly interested in a question like a teacher at school who cares, for example, you can click on it and that will dive down into each individual question. So you can look at
I need to select 2021, I think.
Yeah, so you can look at each of those, the histogram of the responses. You can put on your numbers as you scan over the top. You can put on comparison data. So if you really wanted to dig down to how they responded to each individual question, you're able to do that. And there's often people in school that want to keep digging down and get more information. As I said, back in the PDF report side, you're able to get those reports, and the snapshot's a great go-to one. And either printing that off or using it live. On the interactive side too, we talked about that last question about what you can do. And this is where you can look at those reports there. So if you could magically do anything, what's the one thing you could do to support the wellbeing of young people? You've got all the responses there, and you're able to see what they say for in response to something like bullying, and you get all the bullying responses. It's a great way to add a bit of colour to the data, especially if you're reporting it back to parents or the community.
You can also download this data by clicking on that download CSV button up there.
So there's lots in the portal, both in the interactive side and the report side, the mental health report, the snapshot, the positive learner's mindset. That's you're able to look at anxiety and engagement or disengagement from problem solving. So lots of stuff there that you can dig deeper in that will give you really good information. But as we said, if you just focus on the snapshot, that's a great starting point. Start with that. And if you're feeling more confident down the track, jump in and play around with that data. We're available at any stage. If you've got questions or comments, feel free to flick us an email and we'll try to help you out wherever we can. And I suppose the one thing to reinforce too is our 101 Resilience Building Ideas, our ebook. That will be available to you either via our website or through the social enterprise organisation. And that gives you some ideas about what you can be doing at a school level, low cost, no cost, on what you can do to start building some resilience in the students. There's probably a bit of an overlap there, Tom, with your program and how that can be used to build the mental health and resilience of young people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, we saw a real opportunity to, from a social enterprise schools perspective, we saw a real opportunity to partner with Resilient Youth Australia because of the ability of a program like social enterprise schools to provide those teachable opportunities, and I suppose the educational context for some of those elements of connected, protected, respected. And you know, what you guys are so good at is really gauging the cohort of students. And what we always start with social enterprise school is, who are the students and what do they need and what is their point? That's what we sort of come into the school with. So I think understanding the opportunities and I think, Scott, how you put it was the challenges, you know, if they fall below the 15% or they're anywhere on that side of things as identified by the school, or it's just something that the school wants to focus on. You know, for example, given useful jobs at school, I think that's a really interesting one, given that was low, but is low nationally anyway. Maybe a school's not okay with that. That's an opportunity. Or that's you know, a challenge. So I just wanted to quickly just presence the opportunity, I think, of that 101 resilience building ideas. The schools we work with get loads of resources along our learning journey. But I will also send out your 101 resilience building ideas, and some of them are just completely right in the wheelhouse of social enterprise schools, to the point where I don't even need to say them, because I think the teachers will just recognise that opportunity straight away. But you know, I think as well, there's an opportunity in there just to rethink of some of the opportunities that social enterprise schools might raise. In the connected domain of the 101 document, there was, you know, increased opportunities for parent involvement. So bringing parents in, and again, that's one that it can be really easily done with social enterprise schools. Social enterprise schools actually gives a really nice reason for schools to reach back into the resource they have in the parents. In the protected domain, I sort of just flicking through and seeing the one around teaching your students what factors will actually stress them out. And there was a list of factors, one of them being thinking and worrying about the outcome, not the process. And with social enterprise schools, we talk a lot about, you know, that the success is really the journey, in that, as the same as point as that one's making, and that being like an incredible thing for their mental wellness, not always focusing on an outcome based, like, you know, I pass this test or I completely fail at life. And then last one that I sort of just picked out, being a respected domain one, which was introducing the community skill set. You know, if you need an accountant, if you're talking about accounting in school, bring in an accountant that you have in the local community. And we have a 10-stage learning journey that almost draws on all of those. You know, accounting's one, and then artist is one, and all the way along. So loads of opportunities there. And for the teachers watching this, I just wanted to just sort of make the point that we love to work with you through this. We'd love to sort of explore what you are seeing there as opportunities and challenges, and then how potentially we can sort of work together to attack them. So Scott and Andrew, thank you so much for today. Thanks for your time and your insight into this, and really looking forward now to seeing what we can get done with our schools as part of it. I've just got a question here from Ian. Can the colour coding thresholds, e.g. 15%, may adjust by schools to suit individual school goal setting?
Yeah, I'm not too sure whether that question was about, we can't adjust that percentage from the norms, but schools can certainly use the norm percentage and where they sit as part of their own performance reviews, if you like. And the nice thing about our survey is that schools can choose who they share it with. It can be an internal document and that's it, or it can be shared with the department, for example, or school councils. So they can be using the data to support their own key performance indicators, especially that mental health constructs.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. We might leave it there, Scott and Andrew. Thank you to everyone for coming in, for being in the webinar real time, and we'll be sure to share this webinar far and wide as well. So we'll sign off there. Thank you again, Scott and Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you.